I cannot believe that I have been talking this whole time on mute. You know how freaking embarrassing that is. But people are going to laugh about it, I guarantee you that. For 3 minutes, I was talking the entire time on mute. Wow. Oh my God. So, in case you. Jesus, I really don't want to go over it again, but I'm going to have to. Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews. Mystery Reviews, episode 19. Epi the Oz, he got it right. Thank you, Phil, for letting me know that I was muted this entire time. Oh my God, I cannot believe that. Rookie mistake. Holy crap. But anyway, thank you for letting me know. Oh my gosh. But yeah. So this movie is a 2010 film. It is a Lionsgate film. And it stars John Travolta and John Rhys Meyers. Thank you, Jade. I see you in the chat, lurking. Awesome. So, yes, this is the movie From Paris with Love with John Travolta. And I got to say, I saw this movie's previews for a long time, and I couldn't find the freaking movie. I didn't see the movie for the first time until like 2015, and it's a 2010 film. And I had been looking for it for literally 5 years, and I couldn't find it in physical media at the time. So when I finally saw it, I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'll get it on digital. That way I can see it and whatnot. The problem is, folks, because I have an abundance of physical media, don't get me wrong, it's just that I don't have the means to play them. Yeah. Never saw this movie. Yeah, believe me, you should definitely give it a check or a look, Mara. It is excellent. I mean, this movie is objectively, it's up there. So, yes, directed by Pierre Morel, this movie is about a low-level intelligence agent who is working at an embassy in France. He's basically an embassy gopher. It is From Paris with Love. It's a spy movie that's kind of like a parody to From Russia with Love in the Bond films. Trying to, there we go. Get a little bit more light in here. There we go. So yes, it's like a parody of Bond, but it is so much more hilarious. And I gotta say, John Travolta really does a wonderful job. And to cap it all off, he's more of a support character than the main character. So that tells you that while a support character does kind of overtake the main character, which does go against its objective quality, it really is still a good movie because it's kind of carried. But still, it does lose objective quality points for it. So yes, this low-level operative who wants to be a secret agent, the beginning is a nice drive through Paris, establishing that this movie does take place in Paris. And then the main character is basically introduced. His name is James Rhys, and he's an assistant to an ambassador. He's an embassy gopher, like I said. And he gets calls from basically higher up in his agency, and he gets told to do certain tasks. In this case, he's flipping license plates. And I like how when he enters the code and to get the plates from his vehicle, he sees a locked gun, and he kind of reaches for very reverently. He's like, but as he does it, he then goes quickly over it to grab the license plates that he's getting. And he then does the job. He flips the plates on a vehicle. He then watches what goes on with the vehicle. The people get in it and drive off. And he then drives off, or himself. The movie does a wonderful job showing how mundane Rhys feels and how he wants to do more. He talks with the guy or with the person who sets him up with the jobs, and he's like, I can do more, sir. Please give me this chance. And he's like, all right, well, you'll get your chance for something better. And he tells him that he has a listening bug in his coat pocket, and he needs to plant it in the ambassador's office so that they can listen in, or the French minister or something like that. So he does this little job. He has a little bit of gum. He can't exactly stick the thing because it's not sticky. So he tries using gum. He fails at that. And then he tries to stick it again with the gum. So then he draws attention away from himself, and his boss and the French ambassador leaves. So then he's able to just grab a stapler and just staple the damn thing to the table. So this movie also does establish his girlfriend, who's a French woman, and she makes her own clothes out of curtains and other fabrics. And I really do like how they establish her as an interesting character. It gives you the sense that she is going to play a bigger role. Now, this movie does a wonderful job setting up characters. It does it both fast and long paced. When it comes to characters who aren't going to be in the movie a long time, they only set them up swiftly and whatnot, and then they do their thing and then they're out, you know? So the movie is slightly tedious. I will give it that. It does take a while to build up, but once you get to him completing that task with the bug, you definitely get a real pickup with this movie, because now he has to pick up Charlie Wax. Wax on, wax off. That should have been the clues to this movie, or to this stream. I should have gone with wax on, wax off, because this movie, or everybody would have guessed Karate Kid, and they would have been completely wrong. So yeah, so when he has to go pick up Charlie Wax, he just got proposed to by his fiance, and she gives him a ring to wear, and she makes him promise to never take it off, which is important later on. It's a good way of setting something so small yet so important later on in the film. And I got something on my screen here, which is annoying. Or is it because of this thing here? Yes, it is. Okay, it's just a screw in my wall. But anyway, when we get to the introduction of Charlie Wax, he's in customs at the airport in France. And oh my God, this movie is so freaking hilarious in this. He's just giving this French guy a bunch of guff because he can't bring in energy drink cans. And they're like, it will never enter France and whatnot. It is just so freaking hilarious. And then he starts going into the motherfucker, and they're like, motherfucker? Yeah, I use it as an adjective, but I can easily use it as a verb or a noun. Like, this motherfucker hates Americans so much, even though we saved his country's ass in not just one, but 2 world wars. And he still won't let me in with my cans. And oh my God, this whole freaking scene. He's like, it's for energy drink. It's just, here, it's caffeine, corn syrup, caffeine, and water. Cracks it open. Try it. And it is just so freaking hilarious. So then they actually have him, the Reese talk to him. He's like, yeah, I know who you are. You're a chess player. I read your files. You play chess too? Do I look like I played board games? So slip this guy some cash, and why don't we handle this in a way a little bit more subtle? So then he can't get in with the cans. So Reese just settles it the diplomatic way, puts a diplomatic mail on the bag full of cans, and they're allowed to take it because if you have diplomatic immunity, you are allowed to do certain things. But diplomatic mail assures that, or tells them that it can go through, but it will be mailed home. You know, so yeah. So in the car, we go over, or he's like, that really wasn't necessary. He's like, yeah, but I needed to, I like sticking it to those self-righteous pricks and whatnot. And he's like, I don't know what the big deal is over caffeine or corn syrup, caffeine, and water. The big deal is he shakes the can and there's something inside of it, secret ingredient. And as he's pulling it apart, he's assembling his pistol. And he's like, I'm authorized to get you any gun you want, right? Yeah, but Mrs. Jones and we got a thing. And he starts singing it a little bit. And he basically, that pistol is his wife. And it's like, okay. And then he's like, so what was that whole thing back there? Hence the grammatical variations of the word motherfucker. And he's like, you didn't catch that? It is such a hilarious movie, this movie. And the writing actually is very well done, and it's acted very well. That's that's another plus for this movie. I mean, John Rhys Meyers, I never even heard of him before until this movie. And then it's like, dude, he does wonderful in this movie. In every scene he does, and oh my God, it's just perfect the way he does it. So they go to a Chinese restaurant that Charlie wants to go check out. He's like, I'm late. Can you take me here? He's like, there's a lot better Chinese place. Yeah, but I like here they do a great egg foo young. So they're in the restaurant and they're just talking shit about egg foo young and how egg foo young has nothing to do with it, or foo young has nothing to do with what's in that dish. The Chinese word for egg is dan, which happens to be spelled the same way as my name. But anyway, so then Wax starts a whole scene. He's like, or he asks a guy, he's like, what's the Chinese word for egg? I'm sorry, I'm fourth generation. I was born in Brussels. I don't even speak Chinese. So then he just pulls him down, puts a gun to his face, and he's like, you just think that that freaking Travolta has gone nuts. At this point, you're like, what the actual fuck? Holy shit. And we're basically Reese in this moment. We're like, what the fuck? And so he's like, how about we order from dessert? No dessert then. And he's like, well, then I'll order off the menu. Some Pakistani Chinese product that you sniff off a spoon and whatnot. And basically you're getting the idea that he's looking for drugs. And it's like, holy shit, man. So he's like, if you want to score, oh, Jesus. This always happens. And, yeah, so then everybody in the kitchen staff basically starts shooting at him, and there's a nice little shootout in the room, and so the guy's still there because he's holding him down, or he's using him as like a human shield, and he then kills all the kitchen staff people who are not really kitchen staff, but that comes to play later on. And then he's like, where's the blow? No blow. Where's the blow? No blow. And he burns his face, or he burns the guy's face with the barrel of his gun after it's just been shooting a lot of freaking bullets. Anyway, the guy looks up at the ceiling and he's like, and he looks up, so he grabs one of the machine pistols the guy was using and shoots the entire ceiling, and it's just raining freaking cocaine. It's just freaking a downpour of powder. You know? It is so free. He's like, grab that vase and freaking collect some of that shit. And you then you see him go or grab some of it or sniff and lick it a little. He's like, you know, or have you ever noticed that when or the closer you get to the person who makes this shit, the better it tastes? I mean, it's like, oh my God, dude. So then he grabs the guy and he's like, you go and tell your bosses that I let you live for one reason, to give them a message. Wax on, wax off. And then he just lets the guy go. And so they get out of there and he gets the keys. He speeds out into the back of the place. And they're like, I don't get it. Wax on, wax off. What are you, the Karate Kid? No, man, it's code. It's code. Yeah, it's code. It's secret agent or it's agent stuff. Waxes on, he's going to take you off. You know, it's code. I mean, it is just freaking hilarious how he handles it. And then he nods, sees how the guy is walking out of the back of the place. And so he's basically teaching Reese the ropes. And it's like, you want to get into this shit? We're getting into this shit. And so then he tells the guy, and then there's a shootout in a freaking textile building. And then he's like, stay one floor below me. I don't want any of these motherfuckers are creeping up on me. And he's just throwing people over the railing, down the freaking stairs. It's one of those huge spiral ones that has an opening in the middle, and these guys are just falling down. He's here with a silencer, and then these guys are just falling. He's just tossing them over. And Reese is just following him with another gun. And before that, I should actually cover the small little alleyway scene where they parked. And they're like, kitchen staff? There's no kitchen staff. With the lead they've been dropping and whatnot. And so this Chinese street gang comes over and he's like, we got no problem with the Asian brothers, do we? Hey, brother? He's like, wrong, brother. So then he just takes them out and he's like, he's a kitchen staff. Wax just continues to show off how badass he is, basically. And it's just freaking great. So when we get to the scene where he's then shooting people and throwing them off or throwing them down the stairs, we then get to the head of the business, and he's like, translate for me, because Reese knows level 2 Mandarin at Cambridge. And he then starts hold on one second. There we go. He then tells him, he's like, I will right now, I just want the address of the person who's been making all this or your product, and you get to keep everything else. But if you don't do it right now, I will kill you and everybody in here. And he's like, so Reese is like, think of the children and whatnot. And you basically get the idea that Wax is literally going to kill people if he doesn't do it. And he's watching these kids do a nice little dance recital kind of thing. So then the guy writes down the address and hands it to him and whatnot. And you also learn that there's deceptive motives. Why is Wax doing this? He's like, well, you're a girl named Charlie. He's like, wait, are we doing that, or we're doing this on some off the books personal thing? If this has nothing to do with national security, then I want nothing to do with it. He's like, it does when it's the Secretary of Defense's niece. And that is a nice little small plot point that you think is going to be a bigger plot point. So after the shootout and in the textiles, and Wax just showing off more of his secret agent skill, he has Reese toss him a revolver or 38 that he gave him, and he's like, creates a smoke trail better than a Cohiba. And so after he uses it, he's like, he's just you get the fact, or you get the impression that Wax is just absolutely fucking crazy. You know, it's just that good. Now hold on 1 second, folks. There we go. Now, there. And so, yeah. So, after the shootout and freaking during this whole time, no joke, Reese is carrying around a freaking vase full of cocaine. They're on the Eiffel Tower. He's like, there's a lot of shit here. Take a hit and whatnot. And he's like, are you insane? I thought this wasn't about you scoring coke. He's like, it's not. It's about us working over some nerves so we don't end up getting killed and so we get to go home alive. He's like, I'm not sticking that shit up my nose. Well, fine. Then you go, or then I don't want people being able to spot you as an embassy gopher. So you stick some of that shit up your nose, or then you go back to the office and find me a driver who, or while you're at it, flip my plates while you're at it. And so the freaking Reese just sniffs a little bit and he's like, and whatnot. He's like, this isn't the same shit that the Secretary of Defense's niece took, is it? He's like, nah, man, if he did that, we'd be or if that was the same shit, we'd be foaming at the mouth. And then he tells me, he's like, ugh, are you listening? Are you paying attention yet? It's never been about the coke. Well, what about the Secretary of Defense's niece? The shit gave the girl a heart attack. He's like, are you high? What is this? Are you high right now? I mean, and so then they go back into the car and he's like, what the fuck, Wax, and whatnot. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just took a bunch of guns. He's like, what is this about if it's not about national security? What do you think it's about? It's about terrorism. And then that just completely smacks, or kind of just really sobers Reese up, because he's telling him how this is how the Pakistanis are moving their product and getting bombs and blowing people to shit and whatnot. And the way that he's reacting to it, how he's hearing the echoing and whatnot, it's basically, this is after 9/11, This movie takes place after 9/11. And it actually goes over a good way of basically reminding people that terrorism is really still out there. It's really a thing, you know? And he's like, so they're driving and then he slams on the brakes, and because you can tell that Reese has never done coke before, because some of the coke spills onto the dashboard and Reese is just trying to cover it back up and get it back in the vase, and he's like, Travolta's just like looking at him and he's like, okay, that's our guy right there. Just act the part of a freaking drug addict, will you? And don't get us killed. And you're like, all right. And oh my gosh, it is just so freaking great, you know? So so when they go into this next building, he's like, tell them I want two, or he goes up to this pimp guy. He's like, tell him I want two big titted women and a place to have fun. And he's like, okay. So he tells the French guy, he's like, and you, what, you just want to watch? And he says, a woman for my guy here, or for my friend here. He's like, what, you just want to watch? And then he sees their dog just sniffing or licking the dude's hand, which has a bunch of freaking coke on it. It's like, holy shit. He's like, whatever. They have a prostitute going up with them. They get into an elevator, and Reese's girlfriend catches him and is like, oh, shit. So then he gets into it, or he tries to call Caroline, and it's like, oh, shit, man. It doesn't work because his battery's dead. So then he gets caught by Caroline, who's out collecting orange fabric, which plays later in the movie. And she's like, she's not like those French girls who are not as uptight as the American girls, you know, as he says. So then while he's like, come on, I did not come here so you could just show or score with a hooker and whatnot. And he's like, are you paying attention yet? He kicks open a door and he tells everybody else to haul ass. Now, as the main guy is leaving with one of the with the other hookers, frickin' Reese just puts his gun to the guy's head and he's like, give me your charger. Give me your charger. Now get. He's like, yeah, man, what was that all about? I need to charge my fucking phone. So then he calls Caroline while John Travolta's getting busy with the prostitute. Prostitute's actually pretty hot. But he's explaining, he's like, he's my crazy partner that they got me working with. And she's like, just come home. You're out there doing God knows what with this. She's like, the pimp is your partner? Because she thought that he was, or Charlie was the woman's pimp. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is just so freaking great. So he finishes his job and he's like, any movement? And he's like, yeah. Or yeah, because he was telling them to look out for people carrying a huge bag of money. And he's not afraid to use the derogatory terms for Pakistani terrorists. I mean, he uses towel heads and all sorts of derogatories and whatnot. Because the thing is, he doesn't care. And that's a wonderful thing when you're a secret agent. You're not going to care about this shit. As far as you are concerned, the people you are looking for are terrorists. You're not going to care if you fucking offend anybody. That's just how Charlie Wax is, you know? And so he's like, they hear pounding at the door, and he's like, it's just probably the pimp. Kill or shoot the fucker. He's like, I'm not gonna kill him, Wax. And then the pimp's guys come on in and start giving freaking Reese a beat down. And John Travolta is looking out and keeping an eye out for the terrorist guys and whatnot. He's like, well, hallelujah. And then he looks to see that Reese is still getting beat up, and he's like, oh, just reaches over with his gun, shoots the two guys. Next time I tell you to shoot the fucker, shoot the fucker. You know? This movie just drops some great lines. So then they're trailing terrorists. And this movie does have one digital shot. And it's of a satellite because he's using his little gadget as he's trailing terrorists, and he sees a van. He gives them, or he tells them exactly what vehicle it is, and it shows a whole global shot, and then it shows a satellite. The satellite is not the best quality. I will tell you that right now. It is like, holy crap, this is just bad CGI. But it's a Lionsgate movie. They don't exactly have the best CGI, in my opinion. And hold on here. There we go. And so they then follow the vehicle to a projects place in Paris. Basically, a lot of housing and loft housing and whatnot. And he's still carrying around the freaking coke, which finally does come in handy, where he just drops it because 5 grams is considered consumption. Anything over a kilo gets you 15 years in prison. So he's like, well, it'd be a shame if they find 5 kilos of their own shit. They find 5 kilos of their own shit. And so he drops it and everybody just leaves. Now the guy, so then they take the guy that they have as kind of like a hostage. He's like, or you get a body count, or you get a sense of how many people they've killed. He's like, well, that's 26. So that's basically an average a guy an hour. So you honestly think we won't kill you, man? So then they get into the room above the main room that or the terrorists are working in, and this old guy is like, they barge in, and they're like, don't worry, we're not gonna hurt you. He's like, why should I worry? I'm old. What do I have to fear anyway? And he's like, mint tea? Why the hell not? So, I mean, Wax is a man that is crazy good at his job, but he also doesn't mind vices and whatnot. He doesn't, or he uses it to his advantage. So he's like, he uses one of his gadgets or a long stick with a camera to look down into the floor below. They're packing up shop, and he's like, okay, I'm going to take the scenic route. You get down there and shoot anybody who comes out the door. And he's like, all right. And so he's like, so the guy, he's like, gives him the tea, and he's like, takes 2 sips of it. That's some good shit. Where can I get my hands on some of this? He's like, you can't. It's homegrown. He's like, fuck. Well, thanks for your hospitality. And then he just jumps in and starts shooting more. Now, one of the things that you do notice in a lot of shootout movies, there seems to be infinite ammo. In this movie, they actually do show clips and mags actually being swapped out. And that is actually a nice little realistic touch. So, let's see here. Right. So then they have the shootout, and they find out that the 10th floor is wired, or the door to the 10th floor is wired with explosives. So go to the 9th and cut them off. And so one of the guys stops him, and Reese is holding the gun on him. He's like, get down now. And the guy says something in Urdu and forces Reese to pull the trigger in his mouth, and the guy's dead. So Reese has blood all over him, and Travolta is like, yeah, man, good on you. You finally took one down and whatnot. So then they're packing up all the intel, and Reese goes to the bathroom to clean himself off. He's slowly realizing that he's not sure whether he wants to do all this. He's really shaken by all the action and his own insecurity of whether he still wants to do this. So as he's mulling this over, he then hears the sirens. He's like, Wax, we got to go. He's like, get in here. You need to see this. And so there's just pictures of Reese all over the place. And it's like, oh my God. And he's like, I just follow a bouncing ball, man. And right now that bouncing ball is leading to you. He's like, there's no fucking way I'm involved in this. Well, that's not what the intel says. So they're getting ready to leave, and the police are already rushing up the stairs, going up to the 10th floor. And Reese wants to try to save the police because, well, the door's wired. He's like, that is not an option right now. If we get caught, thousands will die. And he's like, yeah, but our job is also save lives. They don't deserve to die. And he's like, you go out there, it's over. And so he pushes Wax away, and Wax is trying to stop him. And while the door blows anyway, because Wax did hold him off quickly enough. So then they're trying to make their escape, and they get into a police car, and they drive by the government vehicle, and he's like, wait, I got to get my files and whatnot. He's like, look, let me see if I can wrap my head around this. You want us to stop in the middle of our getaway so you can go to your truck, grab your files, wipe your prints, and whatnot. He's like, I'll be really quick. Quicker than this. So he backs up the vehicle, creates a chain collision that hits their vehicle and triggers a pressure explosive. And it's like, holy shit. Oh, fuck, I forgot the suicide vest. But anyway, yes, there is a suicide vest part in this whole scene where it's like, how long do you think it takes to get down the floors if you're running? About 6 seconds per floor, so that's 54 seconds, about 5 seconds across the lobby, 4 seconds to get to the car. And while he's doing this, he's prepping one of these bomb vests that was being put together. And then he drops it on them, and he's like, and then there were none. Killing all the terrorists with the bomb vest, which is pretty ironic. And that's what triggered the cops coming anyway. So after that, they get their getaway, and Wax he's like, you take a seat right there. I need to talk to some, or these trench coats heading our way. And so the trench coats hands Charlie a bag, a paper bag, and he hands them the duffel full of intel. And so then he's like, what's in the bag? Reese, what's in this bag is going to get me killed one of these days. He's like, or every man has his vices. And the locals around here call this vice a Royale with cheese. Now the music is kind of setting it up a little bit. And then when he pulls out the Royale, it stops the music, and they're like, oh my God. It's a nice little moment that is it's deceptive, but it's fun. And so they have a nice little moment. They're like, so when is the job over? When do we get home? Or we can now go home? Not until the trench coats call us and say we can. He's like, well, what if it's never over, Wax? And what if I'm not cut out to be this kind of guy? What if I'm not cut out for this job? And he's like, well, that's the whole real reason why you need to stay in this job, to keep guys like me honest. I mean, we're a great team. And it's a nice, touching moment. And so then we get Reese he's like, his fiance invites him to dinner, or tells him dinner way too, bring your friend and whatnot. And so hold on. And so they go to back to Reese's apartment, and Travolta is there. He's talking with his girlfriend's friend, or his fiance's friend, or Reese's fiance's friend. And this part here actually gives a lot of tells about where the story is going, and how how Travolta, Wax, sorry, I just had a dead moment in my head, where he gets a call from his agency people. If you pay attention to what he's saying and also where he goes close to a radio, and the radio gives off interference and whatnot. He's like, okay, tell me what do you got? All of them, or call back all of them. And that's one of the more important things that you hear. And he's like, all right, we'll see what goes on from there. And so then he's telling him, he's like, well, so what were you doing all day? Well, we were killing a terrorist cell, bomb or suicide vest wearing. And you see Caroline's friend. She reacts. She's like, and so she goes to leave the room. She looks back at Caroline. Caroline gives her a look. So now you have a feeling that Caroline knows something about all of this, which is odd. So then they're all having dinner, and the other woman's phone rings. And Travolta is also, or he's thinking that, or she's a nice woman, until he hears, no, there's no Rose here. And then he just goes straight-faced. He's like, and then he looks at Reese. That's the call we've been waiting for. Pulls his gun immediately and shoots the woman in the head. And you now think that he has gone completely off the deep end. And they're like, what the fuck? He's like, you shut the fuck up and you listen to me. Rose was a code word. It is, or her phone is connected to all the Pakistani terrorists that we have killed. And she's like, and so then there's the whole, Caroline is like, she's Pakistani, you fuck, or you motherfucker, that doesn't mean she's a terrorist. He's like, and he tells him, it does when you have him living in an apartment that's bugged. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, check this out. And so he starts tearing the apartment, and he's like, and he also tells her, don't you fucking move. He is in full serious agent mode, folks. And then he finds one of the listening devices, and he's like, huh, what do you want to bet that she's got 12 more or a dozen more of them around here somewhere? I mean, how do you think they've been tracking? Or what do you got that she gave you? Nothing. Your ring, man. That's how they've been tracking us. I'll tell you what. I'll give you my gun. You give me the ring right now. And Caroline is in tears. She's slowly backing up a little bit. And so she's like, please don't, please. And she's pleading with him not to do it, not to take off the ring and indulge Wax. But he does. And he's like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. If there is a transmission in this ring, it will interfere with the radio. And so there is indeed a transmission interference with the ring. And he's like, you see that? Now what? So then he's like, why, Caroline? And his fiance then pulls a gun underneath the area that she was backing up to. It was a dresser. She shoots her fiance in the arm. She then runs. Wax goes after her, calls in the description of the vehicle she escapes in, a green Volvo with a license plate. And then we get to the next day, where they tore the whole damn place apart and they found 17 different devices, 5 cameras. And he's like, better hope you got good moves on you, buddy. Some of those cameras are in the bedroom. Hope, or just pray it doesn't get on YouTube. And you learn, he's like, you're in love, man. He's like, this ever happened to you? Oh, twice at Beirut, once at Bogota. Same girl. I ain't made of stone no matter what you think. And so then Caroline calls him, and you learn that she is indeed a terrorist. She's a freaking sleeper. And she's been using Reese, because of his connections at the embassy, to basically learn about what or when is the best time to have a terrorist attack. So the U.S. African Aid Summit is happening, and the U.S. delegation just arrived, and they found out that through where Caroline is, because they couldn't trace the call, but when she called, but they listened to the background with their gadgetry, which is pretty cool, and isolated the background, which was the Périphérique, which is a highway leading in and out of Paris. So Wax goes after that, or sees if he can intercept the delegation, because they're about to hit the delegation. And Reese is staying there. He's kind of broken. He's down, but he's not out. And they do a good job of him trying to put it together. He's like, why this apartment? Why me? And whatnot. So then he's going through his girlfriend's stuff, and he sees a paper to the Aid Summit and whatnot. And he sees the orange fabric that we saw later on, and a drawing of an orange kind of robe-like gig. And he's like, oh, shit. So while Wax is on the highway, he's like, you got anything with some kick? And he's like, oh, yeah. So he shows, or the driver that he's using now is showing shows him a huge fucking bazooka, and he's like, oh, yeah. So he's getting ready to target the car, because they found the car on the highway, and he's like, I'm a little busy, Reese. I'm about to smoke your girlfriend's car. I just love how he says that. He's like, I'm about to smoke your girlfriend's car. But yeah. And so Reese is trying to tell him, he's like, she's not in the car. And he's like, she's going to the summit as a delegate, and get visual confirmation. He's like, get closer, I need to see inside. And so he's like, fuck, you're right. And he tries having the driver call the delegation to turn him around or take an alternate route. Well, the dumb bitch doesn't want to do that. She's like, nope, negative. Did they turn around? No. Fuck. So he couldn't get a clear shot on the highway, so he goes up on he passes him up, gets up on the bridge, and the terrorist plows through the divide to get into the other route or directional lane to go after the delegation, and he arms a bomb. And just as, or in the scene, I actually noticed as I was rewatching it before the stream, John Travolta has what's known as baby blue eyes. His eyes are so fucking piercing blue. They're like a very deep, but not shockingly deep. But they're called baby blue eyes. And it's like, and the way that his focused face is just so deadpan, I'm like, I've never noticed that before, you know? And so he then shoots the terrorist's vehicle with the bazooka and destroying it. Actually, I think they call it a SMAW, but anyway. The delegation is able to get there, and he's like, welcome to Paris, baby. So Reese is at the embassy looking for Caroline, and he realizes that his ID is swiped, and they're like, we already have you swiped or checked in, sir. We're going to have to bring you in because that's a security threat. If a person is checked in twice, that's a security threat because now they're suspecting fraud. So he's like, I'm the ambassador's assistant. You can't, or just let me talk to the ambassador. And then he sees the ambassador and he's like, let him go. That's my assistant. He's like, not without the gun. Or he's like, why do you have a gun, Reese? Because my girlfriend's in here and she's about to blow the place. So he's like, let him through. Not without the gun. Fine. So Reese then sees Caroline, and he gets into the room with her. And there's a bunch of others that are there too. So he pulls another agent's gun and says, don't you move. And then he points it at Caroline when he notices her high heels. So she turns around. Everybody else has the guns on Reese because Reese is, well, holding a gun on a delegate. So then she takes off her mask or her hood and opens her robe, revealing the bomb vest. And they're like, oh shit. So they turn the guns on her. Don't shoot. That bomb or that vest will explode. It's a shock vest, meaning the slightest pressure or shock to it will set that thing off. So he tries talking her down. And before that, Wax did say, you're going to have to take that shot, Reese. You won't be able to talk her down. She's a woman on a mission. And so he tries talking her down. And just as Wax is getting there, you honestly feel in that moment that he might actually succeed in talking her down because she's starting to tear up. And how you doing, Kamen Rider? Good to see you. And he's like, there's nothing else that matters in the world right now, Caroline. I love you. And that's what we have right now, is love. And she mirrors his word, love. And you'd think that that's it. But unfortunately, she starts bringing her hand back up to the vest to blow now you honestly do not know whether or not she is going to unhook it or anything. You honestly cannot say for certain what she's going to do. But the way that it plays out is that in slow motion, Reese sees what she's doing and he brings his gun up and shoots her in the head. Honestly, she could have been reaching up to possibly disconnect it or blow it. Who knows? But you can't take that chance in this sort of situation. You bring your hand up in a shot or to a freaking suicide vest, you're going to get shot. It's just the way it is, folks. She could have been going to disarm it, but she didn't. She brought her hand up with nobody able to tell what she was going to do. And so that's why he shot her. But you can also see how it affects him too, because it's subtle, but his expression says it all. He loved this woman. He loved her, and he had to kill her. And it makes a lot of people wonder, could you actually pull that trigger on somebody you love if they were doing that same thing? If they were a terrorist and you had a gun on them and they were about to blow the place up with a lot of innocent people, could you actually pull that trigger? Honestly, I cannot tell you whether or not I could or not. I mean, I might talk a big game and say this and that. Yeah, sure. But honestly, if it ever did come down to it, I cannot tell you one way or another what I would do. Because believe me, I've been in love. I've had my heart broken. And a part of it, or a part of you during the time, still cares, especially when your emotions are that raw, in which his were in that situation. He still loves this woman, but when she was about to blow or possibly blow people up, he shot her, and he did what he had to do. And Travolta gets in back of her because she's falling back from getting shot, and he has to undo the vest. So Reese saves the day. Now, or the aftermath is the delegation arrives, and the American delegation is like, what is going on? I did not drive 600 or fly 600 miles to melt in this limo. And he's like, certain it'll be over soon. And she's like, that's what you say when you when you have no idea what's going on. And so her main security is like, Wax, could you please handle this? Tell us what's going on. And so he goes down into the delegate, and he's like, ma'am, I'm sorry for you having to wait. There was a security situation. It has been handled, and you're free to go. So she's like, whoever's responsible for this delay, I want them found out, and I want them fired. She's like, just a real bitch, you know? He's like, I love this, the getting known and knowing that you saved your country and this and that. And so then Wax and Reese walk away, and they skip to the next scene where it's a little bit of time after, and Wax is going on a plane, and he's like, got you something for the road, and he gives him another Royale, and he's like, I'm surprised that you're not, I'd be surprised if you didn't take your act on the road soon, and I wouldn't be averse if you actually took it on the road with me. He's like, I can't. I got to get back to the apartment. He's like, nah, that place has been packed up, shipped out, but I think I know what you're looking for. So Wax hands him the photograph, or those little photographs that you get at like carnivals and stuff. And it's a nice thing for him to remember Caroline by, You remember the good, and unfortunately there's also the bad, but this is the remember the good for, But before we're going to play a little game of chess. And he's like, I thought you didn't play chess or board games. And he's like, I lied, so sue me. He's like, all right. So they're getting ready to play. He's like, but just so you know, I'm a very sore loser. He puts his gun on. He's like, oh, so if that's the case. And Reese pulls a freaking Desert Eagle. He's like, yeah, man, welcome to the club. And so they're getting ready. He's like, I don't take prisoners. He's like, dude, the stuff I forgot about this game, you haven't even learned yet. So they're talking, and it leads to a pull out or a zoom out. And it's a nice little moment, and that's when the credits roll. So overall, folks, From Paris with Love is a very fun movie. It's not meant to win awards. This movie is by no stretch award worthy. I mean, unless action scenes, it did pretty well. So objectively, I would put this movie around an 8 out of 10. There are some lighting and green screen issues, plus the issues that I mentioned earlier on. But mostly this film does work. It really is a good tale. It really is a good movie. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's funny. And subjectively in moviegoer, I would put it same 10 out of 10 completely. If you like John Travolta movies and you like the action, and you like the fun comedy and stuff, you will love this movie. From Paris with Love is an absolute freaking gem, and I absolutely love it. So that is going to be the video. I'm not going to end it here yet because I want to get you guys the hints. So before I do that, I got to actually pull up the movie that I was going to give the hints because I actually forgot which hints I was going to give. So just bear with me, folks. I believe, yeah, somebody's been watching my shit. I don't care about the Purge. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. And got to go down a bit. I know it was down at the bottom area, so hold on, folks. I will tell you in a bit because I'll know it as soon as I spot it. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Ah, let's see here. Where is it? Okay, so there it is. So the movie I'm going to be doing, let's see here. All right, so the hints are for the next movie, for next week. Retreat Hell, and let's see here, Bridget Moynihan. Those are your two hints for next week, folks. So if you want to take place, do not put the answer. If you know the answer, do not put it in this comment section. Do not put it in the chat. DM me if you know it. DM me your guesses. But yes, those are your two hints. Retreat Hell and Bridget Moynihan. So definitely stay tuned for next Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. I'm going to actually try to see if I can get anybody to join for this one and see if they would like to discuss it. So thank you for tuning in. The movie or the review might not be 9:30 if I do get another person to join. It will be convenient to their time, so the time is subject to change. So just stay tuned, folks, and I will definitely get or let you all know when's a good time to do it. So anyway, folks, that is going to be the video. Thank you all for watching. Cayman Rider, Phil, Jade Shadow, and the others who have been watching. I hope you all enjoyed this review. It was fun to do. I really enjoy From Paris with Love. It's rewatchable. It really is. So anyway, folks, thank you all for tuning in. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Stay tuned for this Friday where me and the Terminator panel are going to be talking the last installment, Terminator Dark Fate. And we will be making a special announcement after that. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. Anyway, if you catch this on a replay, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of From Paris with Love? If you've seen it, did you like it? Did you not? Let me know all your thoughts, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.